So Revelation chapter 7, as we get back to our series in Revelation, as we've had the last several weeks, I guess 5 weeks or so, we've had a series on courage and being courageous. And we're going to see, though, today some people who were courageous as well. And we can take example from that. But the title this morning, A Vacation Made in Heaven. A Vacation Made in Heaven. And I'm sure most people have an idea of what their ideal vacation is. And everybody might have a different thought, or maybe each year it'd be different. And maybe you never get to do your ideal vacation because it would cost too much, or you don't have enough time, or kids are too young or too old or too something. There's so many different factors that could go into that. And depending on your age, it might change what your preference is too as far as vacation. And maybe it's, your idea of the best vacation would just be on a tropical island and, no worries and just relaxing. Or maybe you like to do stuff on your vacation and you like to go to museums and things. Or maybe it's do stuff like go camping and hike the Appalachian Trail. Or, there's so many different things, or just a road trip. And whether it's camping along the way or whether it's staying in hotels along the way, but everybody has a different idea of what they would like to do, what they think is exciting, what would interest them. But even your ideal vacation would not be perfect. It would not be perfect because no matter where it is, it's either going to be too hot or too cold. There's going to be bugs, most likely. It's going to rain or be too sunny. There's so many different variables. It costs money. There's so many different things, and it's going to end. Right? They always end. It's going to end, and is it going to be longer or shorter than you were thinking it was going to be? It's going to be much shorter if it's a good vacation. You're going to be like, well, where'd the time go? Now, if it's a miserable vacation, ends up being miserable, you're like, I want to get back to work. I don't know. But we all have that ideal, maybe, what you think would be the best vacation. But we're going to look at one today, the vacation that is made in heaven. Point number 1, the excitement of a job well done. Revelation 7, verses 9 and 10. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. Okay, so where are we? It's been several weeks since we've been in Revelation. So I'll just kind of show you again where we're at on our chart. Us right now, personally, not in this message, but us, we are here in the church age. Before the rapture of the church there, so we're in the church age, the time period between when Christ died and the rapture of the church and the tribulations known as the church age. We don't know how long that time period is, and we don't know when it's going to end. We don't know when the rapture is going to happen, but that's going to be the next thing that happens. So that was in Revelation, really chapters 2 and 3 talked about the church. And then chapter 4 is when the rapture of the church would happen, and then it starts the tribulation period. And we have already gone through the seal judgments. We've seen the seal judgments, and then chapter 7, where we're at, is basically a parenthesis. Let's stop and look at some of the things that is happening during this tribulation period. And so last time, in the beginning of chapter 7, we looked at the 144,000 Jewish males that will be the greatest evangelists the world has ever known. And so they didn't just come into existence at the end of the sealed judgments. We paused here, and he's telling us, hey, this is happening at this time. So they've been already, at this time, been great evangelists in the world. They've already been that. Kind of like in Genesis, where it says day 1 this happened, day 2 this happened. And then in chapter 2 of Genesis, kind of revisits it again, gives you more detail about the stuff. That's kind of here. It's chronological. We've been going through there, and then chapter 7 is, okay, let's give you some more details. And he's going to do that a few times during Revelation, where we'll get some more details of what's happening more in general in the tribulation period, not the specific judgments, but what else is going on. And so one of the things we haven't seen yet that we will see is that there's 2 witnesses at this time. So yeah, you have the 144,000 Jewish evangelists, but there's going to be the 2 witnesses that'll kind of, I think, get it started. And they will, I think, that they will be Enoch and Elijah. Some people think Moses and Elijah, but we don't really know who it's going to be. But I believe it will be someone who's already lived, and the reason I think it's Enoch and Elijah is because those are 2 people who didn't die. God took them to heaven without them dying. Some people say Moses because a lot of the miracles and things they're going to be doing are some of the stuff that Moses did. Well, did that have anything to do with Moses? No, it had something to do with God. God did it. So can he do that through anybody? Yes, he can. But that doesn't really matter. So we're just kind of looking now at, in general, some of the things that are happening there, and we'll do that a couple times. But so the 144,000 Jews are leading many people to Christ. Well, now John, he's still in heaven. He's seeing this, and he is now going to see something different here. Now, the 144,000 Jews, we don't know exactly when they trust Christ and all that, because it's not until the beginning of this chapter that it says, okay, wait, let's pause. Let's not have any more destruction until they have the seal of God in their foreheads. I think they've already been doing things and doing a lot, but now they have the seal of God in their foreheads. It happens, I don't think, right at the beginning of the tribulation. But here, and that's another thing. I think it's just 144,000 based on what we read here that have the seal of God on their forehead. I know in the Left Behind series, all believers do in there, but I don't know where necessarily they get that, but I'm sure they could back it up in some way, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think that's a matter. And one thing in that series, I think it's a great series, but there will be some things we might disagree here and there on, but some of those are things that they had to make a decision. They can't just leave it vague, because then how do these characters live out their lives? So they had to get very specific on a lot of things in order to make that work. But it makes it exciting, and really, I think, it's a potential of a lot of people using that to even, for the gospel's sake. Those things get people interested in the end times, and that's exciting. Well, here we see these people are the tribulation saints. It doesn't say that in the verses we just read, but it'll say it in a few verses from now. So we know that they are the tribulation saints from every race and every language will be represented by these believers. So they're now in heaven. These are some that are in heaven at this point. So they're there, more numbers than we can imagine, and they will be worshiping God. So many, many people will trust Christ at the beginning, and very early on they'll start dying and they'll be in heaven. And many of them, will be martyrs for the faith, even at that point towards the beginning, I think, of the tribulation. Something that's really exciting about this is that the Jews have finally kind of realized their position. It's they're God's chosen people, and they're finally kind of living up to that. During the church age, they didn't. The Apostle Paul and them, they went to the Jew first. The Jew first. Everywhere you go to the synagogue first. When he went to a new area, they'd reject him, and then Gentiles would get saved. By and large, they rejected him. So it's coming to fruition here that they are the ones that God is using, that they realize that Jesus was the Messiah, that God wasn't done using them, and that's why in rejecting the Messiah, since they have their theology messed up, they rejected the Messiah because they think, well, if the Messiah is coming, then we should have, he should be on his throne now. But that's what we see in Romans chapter 9 through 11, say that, hey, he didn't forget about him. Because remember, Romans chapter 8, there it says that nothing can separate us from the love of God. Absolutely nothing can. So the logical question is, well, how can we trust him because he didn't fulfill his promise with the Jews? So chapters 9 through 11 in Romans is saying, no, he's not done yet. He's not done with the Jews. Well, here it's starting to, kind of the ball is rolling to get going again, fulfilling his promises with the Jews. So it's going to be exciting to see how they will be used to bring Jesus Christ to this lost and dying world. But these believers here, though, that we see here, they're a new group. They're not in the church, because where's the church? The church is in heaven. The church has been raptured, but they are the tribulation saints, and not necessarily Jews or Gentiles, just tribulation saints. So, in 2 Timothy 2:19, it says, "Nevertheless, the foundation of God standeth sure, having this seal, the Lord knoweth them that are his, and let every one that nameth the name of Christ depart from iniquity." Think about all the people in your life that you have seen come to Christ. At the juvenile detention center, over 8 years or so, literally probably a couple thousand come to Christ. And I think back to in New Orleans, hundreds, and on the mission trips to India, and then just church service after church service, and then going to downtown Chicago and passing out tracts and witness and taking kids to do that, and playing basketball and all that. And each of you can think of different things we saw people come to Christ. How many of those do you know by name? Well, not many. Or do you remember every day? Or do you think about it all the time? Or do you know where they're at now? Or know what they're doing now? And which some people would say, well, since you can't know that, then you shouldn't even bother witnessing. Well, that's just foolishness. We're told to go do it. We better go do it. God doesn't tell us, don't witness unless you know that you can disciple them and see them, progressively sanctified until they're perfect. He doesn't tell us that. It's not possible. We're to go out and give the gospel. Now, we should make disciples as well, but we can't guarantee that just because somebody got saved that they're going to come to church and serve and all those things. But we just need to do what God has told us to do. But here, who knows all of his? The Lord knoweth them that are his. He knows the names of all those people. He knows how many hairs on their head. He knows what they had for breakfast. He knows absolutely everything about them. He knows everything about their kids, about their family, what they did yesterday, and even what they're going to do tomorrow. What they should do tomorrow. He knows all of these things. So here you have all of these saints before him. All these tribulation saints. And what a glorious day that's going to be. But even today, he knows everything about us. Even if we're not before him, physically before him in heaven, he still knows everything about us. And he sees when we're worshiping him. He sees when we're not worshiping him. But all of these believers up there are worshiping him. There's more people than we can account. What a glorious thing. We have such a reason to worship him, to glorify him, because he knows us. He knows us. And because of that, let everyone that names the name of Christ depart from iniquity. As we see this picture in heaven, as we see what's going to happen, as we see all of this, it should cause us to depart from iniquity. Depart from sin. Let's look at Matthew chapter 25. Starting in verse 35, we'll look at several verses here. "For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? And when saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Some people think we have to do these things in order to go to heaven, but that's not what it's talking about. During the tribulation time period is going to be a very, very different time. It's not going to be like today. Today, if you go to the store, does everybody know that you're a Christian, know that you're a believer? They just know? No, they don't know that. You'd have to give them some evidence. You'd have to, tell them. You'd have to talk to them. Most people aren't going to know. And you going in there, you don't know by looking through there who are Christians and who are not. We don't know that. But in the tribulation time period, you will know. Well, how will you know? Well, there's going to be a time in the tribulation period, and we haven't gotten there yet in our study, but where they have to get the mark of the beast on their hand or their forehead, and they will not be able to buy or sell without that. Now, this isn't going to be just signing up for a credit card. This is going to be people saying, I now am going to worship the Antichrist. I am going to worship Satan. I'm rejecting God, is more or less what this is. And they will not be able to buy or sell unless they make that formal, I think it'll be a formal declaration and get the mark of the beast upon them. And so when you're going anywhere, you'll be able to tell, hey, they don't have the mark of the beast. So there's at least a good chance that they are not. Now there are going to be some people who won't have the mark of the beast that, for a while anyways, probably they're just going to reject all of that. They're going to reject God and reject Satan. Try to for a time period, probably or potentially. But you're going to know who worships Satan for sure. And some speculation, on whether or not you're going to see the seal of God on their foreheads. On the 144,000, so you'd be able to know that for sure. And if all believers have it, then possibly be able to know that. But it's going to be much more evident who is for God and who is against God. And to the point you can't buy or sell. So this is going to be much more evident here when I was hungry, he gave me meat, when I was thirsty, because you're not going to just be able to go buy something. So what are the saved people going to do? They're going to have to be growing their own food. They're going to have to be, as in the Left Behind, they have huge co-ops where they, people have specialties and they help Christians. It's like an underground whole economic system themselves, and taking care of each other. Because they can't do it with people who are of this world. They will have to help each other in that. And so these people that are before the throne now worshiping God would have, maybe for a very short period, would have helped the 144,000, would have helped each other, would have been able to, would have had to take a strong stand. They would have taken a strong stand already at this point early in the tribulation. The lines are going to be drawn. They're going to be obvious who is for God and who is against God. Much more so than it is today. They had the courage to live an adventure. As we saw last week, the message we had. They had the courage to live an adventure, and none of them are upset that they did. None of them are thinking, oh, we just wasted our life. We wasted that last little time. We shouldn't have served God. We should have rejected God or hid from God. None of them will be thinking that there as they're standing before the throne of God. Daniel 12, verse 3. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. So this talking about the 144,000 and these that are standing before the throne have turned, and also those that stand before the throne have turned many to righteousness. How do they turn people to righteousness? How do we turn people to righteousness? By preaching the gospel. By sharing the gospel with the lost. They that be wise shall shine as brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. Do we turn people to righteousness? I hope that we are turning people to righteousness. That our excitement rubs off on others there, which is what we're going to see next. Point 2, excitement always spreads. We saw a tremendous excitement here. The believers were waving palm branches, which signifies victory. One day we're going to have the victory. Oh, when Jesus was being ushered into Jerusalem, week before he died, they were waving palm branches and stuff. They thought that was the victorious time, that would be the victory there, which it was, but not in the way they thought. Him dying was the victory. Him dying and raising again was a tremendous victory, but it wasn't what they were looking for. Well, this will be a glorious time of that. The excitement of a job well done. So now the excitement always spreads. In point 2, Romans 7, 11 and 12. And all the angels stood round about the throne and about the face, round about the throne and about the elders and the 4 beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worshipped God, saying, Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto our God forever and ever. Amen. There was a young sailor that was on the USS Reeves, and it was bound for Japan, and he was busted down a rank because he had some infraction. He was busted down one rank. He was fined and given extra duty for 3 weeks. And at that time, he was looking forward to his 21st birthday. And so it was on July 15th, and so he would console himself every night about his extra duty. But every night he would say this: they can bust me, they can fine me, but they can't take away my birthday. And he was just looking forward to his 21st birthday. And so as July 15th approached, his excitement increased. And so he was going to bed on July 14th, so knew he was going to wake up and it would be July 15th, his birthday. And he happily repeated, they can bust me, they can fine me, but they can't take away my birthday. Well, the next morning when he woke up, he found out that they'd crossed the international date line, and it was now July 16th. He just lost his birthday. Here, though, is an excitement that cannot be taken away. Isn't it amazing how quickly an excitement can be taken away? If it's a little kid or something, it can be as simply as, they think they're going to get a cookie. They reach up and get a cookie, and then you take that away, and all of a sudden that excitement just disappears. Or we could have excitement for a big day. We want to do something outside, and then a big rain cloud comes over and just dumps water on us, and just take the excitement right away. We can think of thing after thing after thing. They can just take the excitement away. Well, this is something that the excitement will not be taken away. You have the tribulation saints surrounding the throne with palm branches in their hands, worshiping God, and then the angels stand before the throne, and the elders and the 4 beasts. So this is representative of all Christians of all time, up to this point, are standing before the throne with tremendous excitement. And excitement for the things of God always spreads among godly people. Are we excited about the things of God? We need to be excited about the things of God. Excited about what God is doing. And oftentimes, if we're not excited about the things of God, it's because we're not doing the things of God. When we start doing things for God, more things happen. We have more to be excited about. And if we're doing something, if we're excited about, other people will get excited as well. Does that mean everybody will get excited? Not everybody will get excited, unfortunately. There's some people who, the more excited you get, the more friendly you get, the more angry and upset they get. Some people are just that way. I'm going to be grumpy, and if you try to make me happy, I'm going to be more grumpy. And it's just the way they are. They don't like anybody to be happy. And so if you're happy, then they're more sad. But let's not live life that way. Life is exciting. It needs to be exciting because we have an exciting God. Excitement for the things of God will spread. Galatians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7, it says, "Because ye are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of God through Christ." So through Christ, we not only got salvation, but we are now an heir of God, and we can cry, Abba, Father. Abba, Father. We are no more a servant, but a son. We are part of his family. That is something to be excited about. That is something we should want other people to know about. That we don't want to hide. We want people to see the excitement that we have about that. Like, oh no, we go to church. We can't watch those things on TV or movies because it's just awful, and so we have miserable. We don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do the other thing, and so we're just miserable. Those other things, the bad things, the things that are wicked that we don't do, are the things that drag us down, the things that enslave us. We are no more a servant, we're a son. We don't need to be enslaved to those things. We don't need to be enslaved to the drugs and alcohol and things like the world needs, or the filth in the movies and stuff. We don't have to be enslaved, because we're a son of God. We're a child of God. That's not only to make us excited, but that is an excitement that should spread, that we should want to tell others about. Well, just as excitement spreads, a rotten spirit spreads too. If we're the opposite of that, you could make other people miserable by you being miserable. So let's not be that way. Let's not just look at the negative of everything. People like to tell people news, right? If you have news on something, you like to tell people. But typically, what kind of news sells? Bad news. Things that's about something bad that happened. When you turn on the news, is it all about the good things that happened? No, because that stuff doesn't get reported. What is there to report when something good happens? It's the bad stuff. It's the guy who drowned in Miami as the teenagers videotaped him and watched him. And I hope they find a way to prosecute them somehow, some way. That's just awful. And I was actually thinking about trying to download the video to that and showing that, because I want to think about something. I don't know how many of you saw that. And it's just, awful. They're like laughing. And, saying, oh, if you can't swim, you shouldn't be out there, or something. It was awful. And he drowned. And they even acknowledged that in the video, like saying that he's dead out there. So the thing that maybe they could prosecute them because they didn't report, somebody dying. And it's not like there were, I could see, okay, if there's alligators swimming there, okay, they didn't. That's why they didn't jump in. But no, they're laughing on there. That somebody's out there drowning, dying, and that. But as Christians, as awful as that is, and you just cringe when you see that and you can't believe what you're seeing and you get furious. But as Christians, how often do we do basically the same thing? When people are lost and dying and going to hell, and we know it, and we're just doing our own thing. We're just doing our own thing and ignoring what's happening there. Ignoring what's happening there. But we have the good news. They just have the bad news after bad news, but we have the good news. We have the thing that can change everything right side up. And as we saw it at Teen Camp this year, was life upside down. The world, their life is upside down. We can turn things right side up. Does that mean sin will cease and we won't sin? No. But bad news sells. But we have the good news. We have the exciting. We have exciting things to share with the world. And remember, I'm sharing this exciting things right in the middle of talking about the worst judgments that the world has ever known. The worst time that the world has ever known. The most destruction, the most disaster, the most death that the world has ever known, besides maybe the flood. The longest period of torment that the world has ever known, for sure. And we have this excitement that we will be experiencing during that time. Well, we have something to share with the world. Now, there's a lot of people who think, well, you know what, I'll just wait and see what happens. And then I'll trust Christ after the rapture happens, and so then I'll still be up there, but it'll be a little later than that. Well, that's a very dangerous thing. You know, in Thessalonians, it talks about that God's going to send a strong delusion. Now, some people will say that that's referring to anybody who heard the gospel before the rapture, that rejected it. When the rapture happens, they will not be able to be saved. I don't believe that. I don't think that that's what that's referring to. I think, because I don't think we would have numbers here now that they can't be numbered if that was the case. So I really think that, and people who I would agree with on most things have said that they think that's what it's referring to. I know a lot of people have just said not taking a position on that. But I really don't think that's what this is, that it's talking about that anybody who hears the gospel before the rapture cannot be saved after. I don't think that is the case. I think these 144,000 Jews, many of them will have already heard the gospel. And we should look at this as an opportunity, let's spread the gospel to as many people as we can. If this was the case, there could be an argument made for, okay, let's not tell anybody, because if I tell them and they don't get saved, then the rapture happens, they're going to hell. But we're supposed to tell as many people as we possibly can. One thing, we don't know when the rapture is going to happen. But I think if you tell somebody and then the rapture happens, they're going to be thinking about more what you said, and I think a lot of those people will come to Christ by numbers that we can't even count. So many people there. And that's what's so exciting, I think, being here in South Florida with so many people from so many different places around the world. If we could reach our area, I think we could reach many, many places in the world. And with the 6 million people a year that drive right through Florida City on the way to the Keys or the Everglades, and then just right up in Miami, you think where the cruise ships and goes out there out of Miami, that's the busiest port in the world for cruise ships. Miami is, and then Fort Lauderdale, not much farther away, is follows closely behind that. We're just in an area that we could affect the world. I really think we could affect the world. So we need to get the gospel out and have an excitement about that. We have something exciting to share. Point 3, something to be excited about. So what is this? We have something great to be excited about. Revelation chapter 7, verses 13 to 17. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, so saying this to John, what are these things which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, These are they which came out of the great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them into living fountains of waters, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Now, a lot of people would like to think that, okay, this is kind of a mid-trib rapture, and it's people that are taken before the Great Tribulation. And as I even mentioned Wednesday, that some people, it seems contradictory, and I think it is. They say the post-tribulation, they're post-tribulation but pre-wrath rapture, which I tend to think is mid-trib, but they look at it differently on this, not mid-trib, but I would say use this even to say it's mid-trib and that, but it says came out of the Great Tribulation. So they were in the Great Tribulation. In order to come out of something, you have to be in something, right? You can't be taken out of it if you're not in it. And it's not. It doesn't say taken out before there. No, they were taken out of the Great Tribulation, and So they had been in this horrible, horrible time. These are people who weren't part of the church age. They are the tribulation saints there. And so now they're standing. Now they had just experienced the worst that the world had ever known. There was a little boy who he was all excited that he was trying out for a play, a school play that he wanted to do, and he had practice and practice and practice for his audition, and he went in and auditioned, and then after school, he was running out to the car, and his mom said, "Well, what happened? Did you get the part?" He said, "Well, guess what, Mom?" He said, "I was chosen for the best part. I was chosen to clap and cheer." So basically, he was rejected, but he saw it as the best thing. He gets to clap and cheer for those who were doing it. We are going to have the greatest experience here before the throne, worshiping God. It's hard to know exactly what we're going to do in heaven. The Bible says more about hell than it does about heaven. But we will never have a dull moment. It will be, we can't comprehend it. He can't really tell us what heaven's like because we don't have any words in our language that can express what it's going to be like. There is no way for us to comprehend. How do we, we compare things. How do we know if it's hot? Well, because we know what cold is. How do we know it's cold? Because we know what hot is. We know the opposites. We know what we like. We know what we dislike. Well, in heaven, we can't compare it to anything here on this earth because it's perfect. And nothing here on this earth is perfect. Even in this here, there's no hunger, no more. We always have some discomfort. We're either hungry or we're too full. We're rarely just perfect, just satisfied, right? Or everything's just perfect. We're not thirsty anymore, or the temperature's just right. Is the temperature ever just right? Oh, at that very moment that is just right for you, it is not just right for the person next to you. It's never just right. But can you imagine heaven? God has the perfect thermostat, for all of us. And so nobody's cold, nobody's hot. And even, isn't this neat? We tend to think, where do people tend to like to go to vacation? In a sunny spot. Somewhere where it's warm. It's just a lot of times you don't typically say, I want to go somewhere because it rains there a lot. Now, there are places you go, it does rain a lot, but there's other neat things there. A lot of people tend to want to go to a sunny place. Well, here it says, neither shall the sun light on them. On this earth, we would look at that as a bad thing. I remember a long time ago, there a commercial, I have no idea what it was for, but it was someone at the beach, and all of a sudden they were all upset because it got cloudy. And the camera shows up in the sky, and it shows a tiny little cloud that had gone in front of the sun, and that made the people all upset, and then it, floated away. That's how fickle we can be. Oh, it's cloudy now, we're all upset. So we tend to think that, if it's cloudy, that's a bad thing. But in heaven, being sunny would be a bad thing. Think about all the things about sunny. When it's sunny, especially here, you go out, it's hot. And it can be miserably hot. Like, okay, I want some shade. I need some shade. Find me some shade. You could also get sunburn. You also are squinting all the time. It's too bright. Or it can't look that way. It's too bright in that. Well, the light is going to be absolutely perfect. In every direction, wherever you look, the temperature is going to be absolutely perfect. We can't even comprehend that. We can't comprehend it. And then not going to hunger, we're not going to thirst. I think we are going to eat. We will be able to eat there. And you think about the thing, your most favorite thing now is to eat. I think in heaven, everything you eat is going to be better than that. And we can't comprehend it. We can't comprehend what heaven is going to be like. We've been chosen for something that's fabulous. Because we have put our trust and faith in Jesus Christ, we're going to enjoy something that we can't even comprehend. We can't even describe in any way, shape, or form. He's going to take away all the pain and the sorrow. And so not only is there no pain, is all the negative taken away, but all the positive that is added. We can't comprehend either of those. All the pain taken away or all the positive that's added. We can't comprehend either one of those. And you put it all together, and it's just multiplied. And so we can't describe it in any way. So the vacation made in heaven will be more than we can possibly imagine. Romans chapter 8, verse 18. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. Let's do the work that is before us with that ultimate vacation in mind. And I think, and vacation is even just a poor choice of words. You know, if you were to take a vacation for the rest of your life, you'd get bored with it. Okay, I need to do something. I need to have some sense of fulfillment. Now, it's easy for us to say, I don't think I'd get bored with it. But I think we would. We need a sense of purpose in life. And we're going to have that each and every day in heaven. We're going to have that sense of purpose. And we may work in heaven. Work was not part of the curse in the Bible. Work wasn't part of the curse. It was the sweat of the brow and the thorns, and all of that was part of the curse. But working will be enjoyable. It won't be, work is kind of like that's pain. That's in the same, you could say it's synonymous with pain almost at times. But it won't be like that in heaven. It'll be a glorious thing, a wonderful thing. It will be no more pain. But we get to look forward to this time in heaven that will last for eternity and better than anything that we can imagine. So let's live this life on this earth with that in mind. Looking forward to that, knowing that what we do here will affect our rewards in heaven, will affect how we live out eternity. It doesn't affect whether or not we go to heaven, but does affect how much we enjoy heaven. So it's amazing. We can think that right in the middle of the tribulation, right in the middle of looking at all this, we have a picture of what we will be doing during that time. And what anybody can be doing during that time if they would simply put their trust and faith in Jesus and Jesus alone. That's the most exciting thing that we can tell the world, is how they can know for sure that they're going to heaven. Letting this hand represent all of us and my wallet represent sin. The Bible says that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. We saw a picture of the glory of God, just a small portion of the glory of God here today, but we fall far short of that. We cannot experience that. We cannot go to heaven with that sin on us, and the only payment for that sin is death. So Jesus, letting this hand represent Jesus. Jesus came to this earth, lived a perfect life to die in our place, to pay for our sins so that we can know for sure that we're going to heaven. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. That's the greatest news the world has ever known. That, yes, first we have to share the bad news. That, yes, you're a sinner. I'm a sinner. We are sinners. But then comes the good news, that if you put your trust and faith in Jesus and Jesus alone, you can know for sure that you're going to heaven when you die. Let's share that great news with this lost and dying world.
Thank you for watching our message today. I pray that it was a blessing to you. If you'd like to learn more about our ministry, please go to our website at calvaryflorida.com. And don't forget to tell us if you trusted Jesus Christ as your Savior. If you'd like to hear more of our messages, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Until next time, God bless.